I'm a 96-year-old senior, and I'm sending this video in the hopes that it will prevent some seniors from getting scammed. About a year ago, one of my friends lost $8,000 to a scammer impersonating his grandson, who covered his voice by claiming he had a cold and claimed he got himself into trouble and needed the money to cover legal costs. He also begged my friend not to tell his parents because they would be very upset. I also have a friend who has been getting calls that she won $385,000 in the lottery and that they will be bringing her the money just as soon as she sent them the travel costs from Toronto, which amounted to nearly $2,000. I had a hard time dissuading her from sending them the money and told her to never talk to scammers. If she got a scam call, just hang up. Now, I consider myself to be a reasonably intelligent person. In the light of knowing about these scams, I should have been the last person in the world to be scammed. And yet recently, but for a stroke of good luck, I very nearly lost to scammers about $10,000. The technique that they used was to mesmerize me by convincing me that my grandson was driving with his friend and that they got into an accident. His friend was the one that was driving, but my grandson claimed he bumped his head to the windshield and thought he had a broken nose, and that's why his voice sounded different. When the police came to investigate, they found a brown paper bag filled with illegal drugs on the back seat of the car. The scammer impersonating my grandson went to great lengths to convince me that he didn't know his friend used drugs, that he never used drugs, and that they were both arrested and in jail. He said he had a lawyer friend whom he knew for about 30 years and whom he trusted completely, and for me to do whatever the lawyer told me to do. Then he turned me over to his lawyer, who advised me that he would need $9,000 to get my grandson out of jail and to hush up the incident so that my grandson wouldn't lose his job. He also assured me that I would get my money back if they didn't find any of my grandson's fingerprints on the brown paper bag. He added that there was a publication ban and that he could only help my grandson if I didn't speak about it to anyone, not even members of my family, so that it wouldn't leak to the press. By now, the thought of my grandson, who had a high-paying job and who had only recently purchased an expensive home, losing his job had me completely mesmerized, and I was incapable of rational thinking or behavior. They had me completely in their power. The lawyer asked for, and I gave him my phone number and address. He gave me explicit instructions what to tell the bank if they asked why I needed the money. I was to tell them that my grandson was going to a car auction that afternoon and that they only accepted cash. When I asked for $10,000 at the bank, the teller told me she could only give me $3,000. I asked if I could get more out of a joint account I had with my son. At this point, I believe the teller became suspicious and asked if she could call my son. I gave her his phone number, and after she talked to him, she handed me the phone. My son did his level best to convince me that I was being scammed, but I didn't believe him and told him I would explain everything the next day. The bank gave me the maximum amount of money allowed, and when I get home, the phone was ringing. I answered, and it was my son. He told me he had just spoken to my grandson, who was teaching a class and annoyed at being disturbed. It was only then that I snapped out of my trance and realized I was being scammed. I was shocked.